when is a handshake more than just a handshake? When it's there to signify an allegiance to a secret society. When it's there as a symbol to let other members know that you're with them. All through the ages, secret societies have used secret gestures and signs to allow themselves to know one another, to let you know just who's in this pack. So when is a wave more than just a wave? When it's meant to signify something to those in the know, those who belong to the secret societies. Now, most of you think these are guys that just dress up in silly outfits and ride around in little scooters. They may seem innocuous enough. But Tex Mars has compiled all the information to let us know the secret hidden codes of the Illuminati and to show us that it's not all fun and games. Well, welcome, Tex.
Well, thank you very much, Freeman. It's great to be with you.
It is great to have
you. And I know you're having a great impact in this area. In fact, on the internet and so forth, all throughout America, people are beginning to talk about the Freeman perspective, so I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, 1,000 pictures is worth what?
Well, yeah, a magnitude. And I do have over 1,000 pictures in my new book, Codex Magica. Many of them are incredible pictures from ancient manuals and textbooks of the occult, going all the way back to pagan mystery Babylon. But of course, we have the incredible numbers of politicians, financiers, bankers, entertainers, probably the elite of this world who we have, well, let's just face it, Freeman, we have caught them in what is basically an occult ritual, and it's sort of a we're in your face type of thing.
Absolutely.
They're taunting the American public and saying we can carry on occult rituals right before your eyes, and they're saying you, the public, are so stupid and so ignorant you won't even know what we're doing. And that's why I'm glad we're going to inform some people, and they're going to discover what is going on before their very eyes, and we're going to expose, well, let's just put it in an old Texas term, these rascals.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I have gathered together a few hundred images here for us to look at and talk about.
Well, great.
And,
great.
I opened it here with them giving a sign and the salute, because you opened your book with the salute in your military career.
Well, Freeman, you know, there's certainly nothing wrong with a military salute, and as an Air Force officer myself, thousands of times I saluted, and it's a sign of a greeting. It's a sign of, well, it's in a sense, it's a sign of superiority, officer over enlisted too, and of camaraderie. But I also noticed this, that there are many people who make the salute in a different way. You know, some very crisp and military oriented, and some sort of lackadaisical. But you know, when a salute is a salute, regardless of, you know, this or that, or, you know, the various forms of it. And so in this book, I tried not to be dogmatic. I understand that in the process of talking and interacting in daily life, that our hands may end up in funny places. And so I don't want to stretch facts, but what we're going to see, I know, in this series of slides and images, we're going to see hand signs quite often that are improbable. They're not by accident. They're designed on purpose. They are a form of occultic or satanic art. And you know, it's interesting. Marshall McLuhan, the famous Canadian who wrote about the media and how the media was able to brainwash people, he said something I thought was interesting. In one sentence, he stated, "The police state is now a work of art."
Absolutely.
And I think that's a fascinating thing. Are we going into a police state? And you're showing some things here, the Nazis and others. We see various hand salutes. There's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Surely he's not giving the Nazi salute, is he, Freeman?
Well, he loves the Nazis, and his father was SS, and
yes.
he wants to be dictator of the world.
He did say it.
The only difference that I see between Hitler giving his salute and Ashcroft and Bush and Billy Graham is that they're smiling.
Well, yeah, and smile they should. After all, look at the success that they're able to. You take Graham, of course. In 1966, he was at the House of the Temple for the 33rd degree initiation ceremony. And this was reported to me by Jim Shaw, who went on to renounce Freemasonry. He was initiated as a 33rd degree Mason. So Billy Graham is a high-level member of a secret society. This is how Billy Graham became famous. This is they make these people through PR. They own the media, and they're able to create, manufacture personalities.
Absolutely. I see this, and I see it over and over again, and we're going to cover so many of these people to see how they create these type of mindsets. That's really what it is. It's a mindset that people are being placed into. And so now we're seeing open Satanism around us all over the place.
That's what it is. It is a form of Satanism. Now remember, people in many of the secret, well, there's an example right there. Pat Robertson, you see that as a very irregular. People don't pose for a picture with their hand looking like a claw.
Right.
And of course this has to do with the one of the Masonic signs, in which he's basically saying that if I divulge the secrets of the order, may my breast be torn out and put on top of a steeple and the vultures tear at it and all. So he has taken a hideous, just grotesque oath in his Freemasonry, and so this is the sign. Now, interesting, that very photo was placed on the cover of Time magazine when Pat Robertson of the 700 Club ran for president of the United States.
Wow.
As a sign to all those out there, I'm one of you, and ha ha ha, aren't we putting one over on the public? But you can see
we'll go to the next
the look on his face, and you see the claw. I call it the claw, but actually it's the fellowship or the fellowcraft degree of Freemasonry. Yeah, there it is. This is from an old Masonic manual, Freeman. As you can see, the drawing. In the book, we use Richardson's Monitor of Freemasonry, Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. So many textbooks right from secret societies, Rosicrucian manuals,
right.
The Order, the OTO. So many of the occult secret societies, we use their own drawings and manuals. So you can't deny that Pat Robertson is giving that sign. It's right out of one of the secret society manuals. He is a member of that secret society.
Well, what about Joseph Smith? He was also a Freemason. Yeah,
Joseph Smith, of course, was founder of the Mormon Church. He was an occultist. And you see some of the members of the Mormon Church with their little Masonic-like aprons on in their various ceremonies, and they're giving the same hand signals and body gestures as you will find in the various Masonic orders, because Joseph Smith and the boys were all Masons. If you go back in history and you research the first Masonic temple, for example, in Novo, Illinois, you'll see all kind of Masonic sun signs, moon signs, because they worship these various astrological deities. And this was the early Mormon church. And of course, much of it is now hidden underground by the LDS or Mormon church. But we did see some of the exact hand signals of the Mormons.
And now each of these signs are a penal sign, discussing that they, will cut their own throat, rip out their tongue, or cut out their bowels and hang it in there.
Exactly. And everything you said is absolutely true. Now I'm a Christian, and the Bible says that we're not to take oaths, especially these hideous oaths. And of course, it's interesting, all of the disciples and Jesus himself said that they did nothing in secret.
Right.
Everything they did was in the open. We as Americans should demand this of our leaders, that they do nothing in secret. Everything should be in the open in a free and democratic country.
Absolutely. But we're dealing with an order of death.
Yeah. We see this. This is probably in Germany, the Death's Head corps of the Gestapo and so forth. And of course, the Death's Head has been barred by the Order of Skull and Bones as one of their symbols, as you know, with John Kerry being a member, right. Senator John Kerry, and George W. Bush, and his father as well. So here we have an occult brotherhood of death right here in America at Yale University. 15 young men, only the elite. I mean, if you or I went to Yale University, even if we could afford to get in, and we had the influence to get in, we're not going to be able to join. We're not going to be tapped, as they call it, for the Order of Skull and Bones, and live in the tomb next to a cemetery. That's where they live. They live adjacent to a cemetery for their senior year, and they're sort of outfitted and prepared for the world, and then they become the high-level executives. And that's why George W. Bush, when he ran for governor of the state of Texas, he had no opposition.
No.
The minute he chose to run, the Bush dynasty went into operation, and all the other people said, we don't want any part of that. We don't want to make the Bush dynasty mad at us. So these people have favored lives, you see.
And knowing this crew, I really believe that H.W. would have used some ritual and also psychological warfare on his own child to bring him up in a particular...
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure of that. Many of these people have all kinds of rituals and requirements. I believe that many of them in their mansions, and I have proof of this, have various satanic idols and even altars set up with black candles and worship Baphomet and other false gods. And it's so incredible because we see them, Bill Clinton, he takes his Bible in hand, he walks over to a Methodist church down the street from the White House when he was in office on Easter Sunday, right after, of course, he had sex with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office. He goes to church. But in fact, these people are members of the Bohemian Grove, the Order of Skull and Bones, and they do various hand signs, have various rituals, and they're not at all Christians. Not at all.
Not even close. See, I found this picture of Jesus giving a hand sign. There was an article about Jesus being a Freemason, and they...
Oh, is that right?
But we know, of course, that the Templars and the Masons have a large deal to do with building cathedrals.
They do, because there's such a thing as occult or sacred architecture.
Yes.
And I noticed on the intro to this program, a tremendous job you did showing some of the buildings, even in downtown Austin, with some various messages embedded in the very architecture.
Yes.
Of these buildings. So it's interesting, if Satan is prince of the power of the air, a demon, if you will, a devil, then is he not flying in the skies above, sometime looking down and saying, isn't it wonderful? The world is patterned after my design. And the Masons, of course, call themselves, they say they worship the grand architect of the universe. Yeah, here's the Pope. Notice the Pope John Paul II, Freeman, behind him is an upside-down cross.
Yes.
Well, isn't that what Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan had? Yeah. Upside-down crosses. Is that not a symbol? That's not a mistake. He has cardinals, he has advanced men, he has front men. They arrange the altars and the thrones and all these things. So he doesn't just go in there and they've made a mistake and they put the cross upside down by accident, you see.
Well, that takes us to their God. They are finally informed later on. Well, here we have the secret hand sign of Jabalon.
Oh, yes. Now, that's an interesting one. Remember Napoleon?
Yes.
I don't know if you have a picture of old Napoleon.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. You put your hand like this.
There's George Washington.
Regrettably, George Washington was a member of this group. And I used to see Napoleon giving this sign, and I said, well, maybe there he is. And you see that in all the famous paintings of Napoleon. And Freeman, as a young boy, I said, well, maybe his hand was cold. Yeah. He's trying to, he should have had a better jacket than that. Look, it's too small for him. But in fact, of course, this is a Freemasonic sign. It's I call it the hidden hand of the god Jabulon. And that is the Masonic god. And it's a combined god of Jehovah and Baal, who is the devil in the Bible, and On, another name for the Egyptian sun god. And so they have this unholy witches brew combination, and higher level Masons are told this is the god you worship, Jabulon.
Jabulon.
Oh, there is one of the Masonic symbols, and as you can see, you have a triangle, the unholy trinity of the devil, and you have the eternal circle, the satanic boast that he will reign forever, and there you have Jah, meaning Jehovah. But in an unholy mixture, he's mixed with the bull, you might say, or Baal, and the Bible mentions that Baal is indeed a one of the ancient Canaanite fire gods, which is the devil. And then you have On, or On, which is the name of a city in Egypt wherein they worshipped the great sun god. And of course, his all-seeing eye is on our dollar bill.
Yes.
So how did that get there? Well, there's another story behind that.
We're going to get to all of that.
This is the Tau sign.
Go to the next shot there.
And here again we have, this is the highest sign of Royal Arch Freemasonry. Well, now there we have something that would appear to be from the Bible, because the Old Testament talks about the serpent being put up on a cross, and anyone who looked upon it was healed. But of course, in the occult, then they make the serpent to be holy.
Yes, they do. They're in their own works.
In their own works, and that's why the cover of my book, Codex Magica, has this Ouroboros serpent swallowing his own tail, which maybe we can talk about. Hey, here you've got an image of Aleister Crowley, the great, I call him great, he was really infamous,
right,
a British Satanist. And L. Ron Hubbard went and studied under this British Satanist and founded Scientology. But here, look at the symbols of his hands, and the sun, radiant sun with the triangle on the headgear. Absolutely a Satanist. He would carve satanic images in the breast and the chest area of his women. He had a harem. And of course, he was also a bisexual, so he had males who he had sexual rituals with as well. These are all hideous emblems that bring in the male phallic symbol and all kinds of things.
They seem to worship that a lot.
Well, they do. Basically, all of these cults are sex cults. Because the mystery religions, they go back to the mystery religions, and they're related to that, and they're all sex cults. They had the goddess, remember they had the holy prostitutes in the temple, and all of these are throwbacks to those kinds of things. What we're seeing there underneath the Jabulon symbol, underneath is a 3x3 ceremony in one of the Masonic rituals, and basically they do their hands and legs in such a way that literally it forms 666 when you get to various numerological configurations.
I found a lot of 666s, and this leads us to Albert Pike here.
Yeah, a little bust of Albert Pike. If you go visit the House of the Temple, and they do have tours in Washington, D.C.
I've been there.
Oh, have you been there? Okay, I've never been there. I have many pictures of it, and it's exactly 13 blocks from the White House. Albert Pike was a Confederate war general. Now, in Texas, the NAACP and other agencies are demanding that we take down any monuments or statues having anything to do with the Confederacy. If your school is named Robert E. Lee High School, change it. We want no vestiges of the old Confederacy. But isn't it interesting that Jesse Jackson, who's a 33rd degree Mason, Colin Powell, who's a 33rd degree Mason, have no problem with this man we saw, not this picture, but the one before, the bust of Albert Pike, who was a Confederate war general, who was wanted as a war criminal by Abraham Lincoln. And his statue today sits in front of the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. on public land, taken care of by the U.S. Park Service.
Right.
And he's a 33rd degree Mason, a Confederate war general, a war criminal.
And a Kabbalist.
Exactly. And so, but it's amazing. His tomb, meaning his body, is interred, the bones, inside the house of the Temple.
Yes.
The international headquarters of Scottish Rite Freemasonry
When I
in
was
Washington,
there,
D.C.
she told me, she says, now this place is haunted.
Oh, it's haunted.
And I said, I'm not surprised.
Oh, yeah.
They took me around and they brought me to the Albert Pike room.
Oh,
Now, they had told me you're not allowed to be alone anywhere, right? Well, she left us alone there. And she's like, I'll be right back. Who's your grandfather? And she went and got my grandfather's membership card and then gave me a copy of Morals and Dogma and the glossary to Morals and Dogma.
Well, I'll be.
And, they found out that my family were all related.
Yeah, and they thought well, this guy could be one of us. You had
Go back to real quick.
Yeah, you had a picture of Karl Marx.
Hey, I want to talk a little about the beard. We've got Albert Pike and the beard.
Oh, yes.
Now we got Karl Marx doing the whole secret sign of
the beard, of course, many bearded men out there will get angry at us, and I don't mean to cast any aspersions on bearded men, but it is true that back in the 1800s, a satanic sect began, and one of the signs of it was heavy beards like this. It was often called the League of Just Men. But of course, they were not just at all. They were evil Satan worshipers. And Karl Marx was indeed a satanic priest. Now you see him here with his right hand in the coat. He is giving the hidden hand of the sign of Jabulon. So that shows that he knew that the false god he worshiped was not God at all. He was Jewish, of course. His father, his grandfather, had been a Jewish rabbi, but he renounced even that faith and then became a Satanist. And one of his he also tried to become a poet, but he wasn't very successful. But in Olanam, one of his early poems, he said his real goal was to destroy the whole world.
These people have
destroy the whhole world. Yeah, they do.
And these pictures now, they're set up as portraits. I mean, these are pictures that they intend to be shown and represent them.
You're right. You're right. That was like an official portrait of Karl Marx. But isn't it interesting if you ask 10 people on the street that you choose, what does that hand sign signify there in the coat? No, they wouldn't know. So again, they believe that they get some kind of a satanic advantage. By the way, one of the reasons for these various hand signs is that they believe it invokes or invites satanic deities to come from another dimension, and it gives them energy powers. For they worship indeed the God of forces, the Bible says. The God of forces.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep moving.
Sure, let's keep moving. Okay.
No, that's great. Talk all you want. So these hand signs go back to ancient Egypt.
They really do. Egypt, Babylon, you're going to see many of the signs and many of the... this is Christopher Columbus. He was a member, of course, of a secret Illuminati order. And you notice the Knights Templar crosses in many of the paintings of the 3 ships that he brought over. But was his name really Christopher Columbus? No, it was not. And so there's a lot of secret history involved in all of these hand signs and such too, Freeman.
My belief is that they've taken on the name Columbia. That's our goddess. This is the male representation of Columbia.
This is the first time I've ever heard that said in public, but I believe it is true. District of Columbia, as you mentioned, the nation of Columbia. And we have if anybody would like to see her picture, maybe, I don't think it's a good representation, but we have Columbia Movie Studios.
Yes.
The gal with the Roman toga, and she's has a torch, that she's holding up and such.
I set you up here a little clip here.
Okay.
The hook 'em horn sign. Now, this one, people say I love you, or, they say it means so many things, but it has always been something that rock and rollers use, and always been in connection with Satan.
It has. At first, when you had the really deep, back in the 80s and early 90s especially, and 70s, the heavy metal satanic rock people, that's when it really began. And Ozzy Osbourne, I remember one of the concerts, I never went to him, but I read that he actually had an altar call for the devil and said, come forward and worship the devil and give your life to the devil. And all the kids would be doing this kind of sign. Now, I look at an ignorance factor here.
Right.
And I give people, I'm not saying that everybody that does that sign is a Satanist. And of course, what we just saw was the University of Texas sign and the Longhorn sign. And I'm not at all impugning the integrity of Texas Longhorn fans. I'm one myself. But here again, we have a sign sign that can be used for good, just to indicate the Texas Longhorn football team, or for evil?
Well, open witchcraft. I mean, we practice witchcraft openly these days. Roll this clip here, Shag. And
we have Matthew McConaughey, who,
For A&M.
I need some thought here. So you got to put a lot of thought into this hex because it's really powerful, or we wouldn't be up here doing this with these red candles, right? We don't even like red.
The tradition of the hex, lighting a red candle, goes back to the 1940s. The truth is,
A&M was killing UT for a number of years in a row, and a couple of students decided to go to a palm reader.
So they hired a local witch to put a hex on.
She said light red candles and keep them burning.
And we broke their curse in their undefeated season, 21-0.
Ever since then, Texas kicked the crap out of A&M.
and on this 64th anniversary of Madam Hippel's spell, these hexers mean business.
Here what we've seen then, Freeman, and you have captured it on film, is indeed an occult ceremony. Now, they may say it's all for good and fun, and that's what the Shriners who make an oath to Muhammad and Allah, they may say, oh, we don't really mean it, it's all good fun and everything. But I wonder what God looks upon, lighting red candles and doing hexes, saying we want to kill our opponent. Yes. And then even the Longhorn sign, maybe when you combine all those things together, I wouldn't think that would be invoking good forces, let's just put it that way.
You know, I was not raised with a religion at all. But I have conclusively proven to myself that Satan rules this planet. Mm-hmm. So many things. I've done the corporate logos. I've looked into Columbia and her connections to Lucifer. All of these things show me constantly that our leaders are Satanists.
Now, what you've said is a cardinal principle. The Bible itself says Satan is God, with a small g now, of this world. Right. Temporarily, for whatever reason, God is allowing him to reign. The book of Revelation says he's furious because he knows he has but a short time. But you are right, and the signs are everywhere, but people don't know it. That's interesting because you say you're not a Christian, and yet you're more aware than 99.999 go out to the infinity of the Christians that I talk to. I don't know of any pastor that knows what you know about these things. That our culture is permeated with satanic symbols, signs, images, and doctrines. And yet the average pastor out there is saying, give us money and you'll get rich, and you know, just into the most, in a way, they're in a form of black magic themselves. Yes. The average pastor. Or think positive, make positive confessions. None of these things having anything to do with true Christianity, but a lot to do with New Age occultism.
Yes.
So we're finding that, and of course, I'm a Christian myself. There is a true Christianity amidst all of the dense forest of false gods and worship. By the way, we're seeing a lot of symbols here. This is the Eastern Star.
Yeah, it's not just the men, it's the women.
Yeah, there's a women's group, and you see the satanic pentagram. The two points indicate the horns of the devil pointing upward there. You see a pentagon in the middle. That again is an occultic symbol, and it makes you think about the great war god Mars. It's one of the symbols of the war god Mars. And what is the Pentagon in Washington, D.C.? In the shape of, well, of course, a pentagon and the god of Mars, or the god of war, which is Mars. By the way, Laura Bush is not a UT graduate, but I just saw her there giving the
kids too.
Yeah, the kids too. Yeah. One of the daughters, of course, is a UT graduate, but the mother, well, no. And I've even seen the senior Barbara Bush, you know, the eminence lady. I've seen her giving that sign as well.
Britney Spears giving the sign.
Yeah, now
we'll come back to her.
Okay, we'll come back to that. And notice that her, in this case, it's the satanic sign, but there's the thumb sticking out, yes, too.
That's
and many people say, oh, that's not the sign of Satan, then that's the deaf signing of I love you. But Actually,
Well,
that's not always
Helen
true.
Keller in occult also?
Helen Keller was one of the ones who helped to formulate and bring the American Society for the Deaf signs to the fore. But she was also an occultist. She was a theosophist, a Swedenborgian, and I believe that's the reason why that's signed. Does it mean I love you, or does it mean I love you, devil?
Yeah.
That's the question.
That is the question. Now, these people, they act as if they're here to help us, and they put themselves into placements to where they can pretend to help us.
Yeah, oh, well, yeah, here's the keeping the faith. That's an interesting. There's a communist fist. Keeping the faith and what? Communism, evidently, according to this Black Power salute type of a fist there, it seems.
Well, they give us their hand signs, you know. We're going to get into the peace sign in a minute. And they give it to us, and everybody thinks that, you know, they came up with it. All of a sudden, it's their sign of solidarity.
Yes,
But now,
yes.
look at these few pictures here. When they...
Yeah, here we have John Kerry. He's, of course, giving the communist fist.
Yes.
And that's what that is. It is the communist fist of solidarity. And there's
Schwarzenegger.
Good old Arnie. This one...
Bring this picture forward.
This one, it's not fully extended on either side, so it could just be
Bring that forward.
a vigorous, energetic gesture of some
Punch
kind.
that guy in the face.
Oh, is that right? I hadn't seen this picture before, Freeman. Now this is...
I mean, the president's going a little crazy these days. I've been hearing a lot of stories.
There are rumors that are actually pretty well substantiated that he may be on drugs again. I don't know. You know, there was a time that he had bruises all over his face, and they said he fell off a couch while he was sleeping. I've never had my face all bruised up falling off the couch.
I got a picture of that, too.
You got a picture of that, too? Okay, all right. But there may be something to that.
And see, he doesn't quite have the fist right there, but I kind of figured that Colin's not entirely black.
Yeah, well, I see what you. Well, he is definitely a 33rd degree Mason. There's no doubt, and he's been at the Bohemian Grove in California. At their little teat-a-teat that's held annually.
Keep rolling there, Shaq. I just wanted to show you. He's not quite all brother. Yeah.
Here's an interesting Masonic sign. Several of the orders have this. It's an indication. It's pointing to the head, meaning the intellect. That they use reason, they use the intellect. Here's this must be Malcolm X, if I can remember right. And there he has on a Masonic ring, by the way. You can see, I believe, from here it's hard to see, but I believe in that picture there is a square and compass of the Masons. So he was not only a black Muslim, yeah, there it is, but he was a Mason. And there's the Prince Hall Masons, made up almost entirely of black people, black men, that is.
Right.
And here he's pointing to his head, and he's basically asserting that he is more intelligent and more all-knowing than the masses. And I would think that black people would be insulted. By the way, the X, of course, some people think it's from the Islamic faith or whatever, but of course X was one of the signs of Osiris, the Egyptian sun god. And the Islamic faith has many, many old vestiges of the old religions. Osiris, there we have the X again and various other symbols.
It has the... it was in the placement of the hands.
The placement of the hands in the cross. By the way, in some Masonic orders, they have Masonic funerals, and they do the legs or the hands
Right, I wasn't
of the body. Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then right before the casket is covered, they cross the hands, just as they did in the ancient death burial rites of the Egyptian mummies and so forth. So here again they hearken all the way back to the ancient mystery religions, and yet many of these people have the gall to call themselves Christians. Now there's Stephen King doing the X. And
that last mummy actually was Ramses, who is one of George Bush's descendants.
Oh, it could be.
According to David Icke.
Oh, really?
So
David Icke.
I
didn't know about that.
That's one of George Bush's relatives right there.
Well, yeah.
According to David Icke. Yeah.
I thought you meant that the brain power was exactly the same at this moment in time. I didn't know what you were referring to. But we saw Stephen King there. Of course, he's the king of the horror genre, fiction. But isn't it interesting? This was from either Time or Newsweek magazine, one of them. But here's an enigmatic sign he's giving, a mysterious sign. There was no caption that explained it. This is, I mean, people don't just, you don't take a picture of them and they don't just cross their hands like this. This is very obviously a sign of the dead.
Yes.
Going all the way back to Egypt. And I think he identifies with the dead.
Yeah.
And maybe he's been given special powers by forces from beyond, in other words, demonic, to write his books and become famous and rich.
It seems that, you know, I was watching Ocean's 12 the other day, and the guy in the movie is like, oh, it's like this Kabbalism stuff doesn't even work.
Oh, yeah, they're sort of letting you know they're practicing Jewish Kabbalism. Jewish Kabbalism is a system of sorcery and medieval witchcraft that is that Albert Pike, in his Morals and Dogma, you know, his former Sovereign Grand Commander, actually admitted was the very basis, the core of the Masonic rituals.
And then he called for the Holy Masonic Empire.
Yeah, yeah. That is the royal secret, he said, that we're going to set up an empire on Earth. Now we have the X-Files, but right before that, you had Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was given a speech, wasn't he?
Yeah, and there was an anomalous X that kept showing up over him.
Yeah, on CNN, and here he's giving a speech talking about trying to justify the Iraq War. This was just a week or two ago, and this X shows up. Well, does it mean he's going to be X'd out? That would mean, you know, you're going to be killed. Well, I hope that wasn't true. I hope nobody is planning such a dastardly thing. You and I would be opposed to that.
Absolutely.
Even though he's not a very nice man. But it's interesting that somebody, maybe knowingly, put that X there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they were identifying him. And by the way, he absolutely, his own office admits that he is a 33rd degree Freemason.
But they know, you know?
Yeah.
They know. Like, go to the next shot here. That is Scully, Dana Scully's tattoo off the X-Files. That was the last image they showed in the last episode before they were off the air. Was Scully's tattoo.
Here what we have is the serpent swallowing his tail. This is the royal secret now. Now this was another TV series called Millennium that was very popular right before the millennium, the year 2000, and that serpent biting its own tail is also found in the 33rd degree emblem of Freemasonry. It's found in Theosophy, which is an occult a system and group. But that serpent is very, very important. Here we have Lenin, and some artists in Russia portrayed him as, you know, a saint. St. George fighting, with the riding of the white horse, fighting the serpent. But in fact, he was in bed with the serpent, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
And Lenin was just a monster. And tens of millions of people were purged, sent to the Soviet gulags because of the horror, the Red Terror by Lenin, who again was a Mason, a bisexual, and much worse.
Yeah, the more you look into each of these people, you find evil. I mean,
yeah, you do. You do. Now this is not a person. Interesting. This is a corporate logo. This is Lucent Technologies. But notice the striking similarity with the Ouroboros serpent biting its own tail, which is the supreme symbol of Satanism. Is Lucent Technology? Some person wrote to me and said they wondered if Lucent means Lucifer's enterprise.
Yeah.
Now, I have no evidence of that. I'm not trying, if anybody works for Lucent Technology, I'm not trying to say, I'm just saying what somebody wrote to me and asked that question.
They worship Lucifer. I mean, it's in their work.
Yeah, they do. I will say this. If an advertising agency came up with that symbol for Lucent, they did not do them justice, or maybe they did, because it does harken back. Here again, we have the serpent. Notice the crown on the top, the phoenix crown. Mm-hmm. The boast, you see, is that Satan was destroyed. He was the beast that was wounded, but shall come back to life. His system. And so he swallows himself, meaning every so many eons or ages, the world is destroyed and starts all over again. And literally the occult Illuminati today, Freeman, their goal, and this is the most secret of all secrets, is to destroy the whole world And then on the ashes, a new world order will be built. They don't wish to capture. People say, well, surely they wouldn't destroy economies. Surely they wouldn't topple cities with nuclear bombs because they're destroying their own property. You have to understand, they believe they're God men who will survive.
Right.
And they will go on, and a new world shall be formed. Back in the French Revolution, the Illuminists there had planned to kill most of the people of France. It wasn't just Marie Antoinette and King Louis that went to the guillotine, but the ordinary people began to be taken to the guillotine and murdered and massacred. And these people literally are brutal mass killers. That's why Pol Pot killed so many of his own people in Cambodia. Lenin and Stalin and Trotsky in Russia, and then Hitler in Germany. Whether it's the Nazi fascist on one side or the communist socialist to the left, they're all monsters. Yeah. And we fight in America between left and right and Republican and Democrat. These people control both factions with their Hegelian dialectic, and that is the true meaning. There is no difference between them. And once we understand that we're up against a juggernaut of evil that does not have a label, then we can be true Americans. We can come together, right, whatever our so-called political stripes. It doesn't matter if you're Bill Clinton on the left or George W. Bush on the right. These are evil men.
Yes.
So we're not politically in political partnership.
Bush, you know?
Putin and Bush. And here's Nixon, by the way.
I would like to throw in real fast that if you look around, all the Mason temples in America are up for sale.
There has
sold off.
There has been a decline.
Well, I don't think it's due to a decline. I think they're ready to lay this country flat, and they're liquidating their assets.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right.
That may well be. Certainly, at one time they had 6 million. Today there's around 2.5 million Masons. That's still a significant number, especially when you realize that the key politicians, the key financiers, are still Masons today. So you may be absolutely right.
We're never going to make it to the end of this, so we might have to. We're on.
We may have to do another program sometime.
I think we're going to need another program.
By the way, in Druid witchcraft, they use this same sign. These are not people just giving a little victory sign. That sign that was used, made famous by Winston Churchill, is the satanic horned devil sign, if you go back and study it. Not that everybody using it means that, but certainly that's the origins of it. This is Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, who certainly knew many of these signs, let's just say,
yes,
as a Mason and a member of the OTO, an occult society.
In the Scientology, you pointed out the 666 and that with the serpent. L. Ron Hubbard wanted to be the beast. When Crowley died, he wanted to take the place. Now,
I had read that. You know, his own son wrote a book exposing him. That tells you something when your own son does a book. This is a guy named Jack Parsons here. I can tell from that picture under an arch, and the arch has always been an important symbol among the Masonic and other secret societies. Jack Parsons was the guy who invented. He was a brilliant scientist, and the NASA space program recognizes him as one of the greatest rocket scientists ever. He invented the solid fuel for the rocket program. We wouldn't have the space program had it not been for him. He was also a satanic high priest, right, who conducted sexual rituals, and here's a drawing of him with his girlfriend, and they conducted rituals called Babylon working.
Right.
And they believed that through sexual rituals, this rocket scientist, Jack Parsons out in California, believed that they could have a child who would be the Antichrist.
Right.
And that would be their honor, they believed, to bring forth into the world the Antichrist as their child. This is the demented way of these men. By the way, he was a big friend of L. Ron Hubbard. They were in the same cult before Scientology was formed. I'm not saying Scientology is Crowleyan or Parsons or anything. I'm just saying that L. Ron Hubbard, his origins were there.
L. Ron Hubbard Jr. said that but it was black magic spread out over a long period of time. It's not a one particular ritual to really get you. It's a long ritual.
I think that all of these hand signs and everything collectively, cumulatively, are poisoning America. Michael Jackson, you always see him giving that sign. He knows what it is. He studied under a Jewish rabbi, studied the Jewish Kabbalah system of magic, and I think he must be a very deep occultist.
We're almost to
the rappers like to give that, and there's a lot of different. There's Ozzy Osbourne giving you can see right away that sign. He knows it's a sign of Satan. Now we have been the Mr. Spock. Everybody thought he just made that up,
right?
But actually, that is the one of the letters of the Jewish alphabet. So this is Jewish Kabbalah. This is magic. When he did this on Star Trek, he literally was causing every person who was viewing that program to become participant in a Jewish Kabbalistic ritual. That's called the letter Shin in the Jewish alphabet. So that wasn't something that the creators of Star Trek made up. That actually was an occult symbol that Leonard Nimoy came up with there
Star Trek
from his
is
Jewish
like
background.
Freemason dream, military spacefaring race. I mean, that's their dream. I really start to believe that these guys are aliens. The movie V, we're back to the V.
The reptilian. Well, certainly they have a spirit that is reptilian in nature. I can tell you that. Whether David Icke is correct or not about the mask coming off, but you do wonder if Satan doesn't have the ability to be a shape shifter. And again, I'm not saying that's true or anything else. But it's interesting that in the book of Genesis it talks about something sort of similar to that. How these aliens come forth and take as their wives the beautiful daughters of men and create a horrible new race on earth. So horrible that God destroyed the race with the flood of Noah. So that has some biblical significance. This is the raw alien. They're a UFO cult. And it's interesting that although they seem to desecrate the Star of David, the Jewish Star of David, they've been invited over to Israel, and with great ceremony they're given land and everything by the Jewish government there. That was the head, by the way, of the raw alien cult. Isn't that sort of interesting that they seem to welcome, and in the middle of their symbol is the Nazi swastika, but the Israeli government finds nothing wrong with that? I think something is strange.
Oh, we jumped ahead here.
Here we have more Masons with their funny little caps.
I was really surprised when you brought up Michael Richards as a Freemason.
Michael Richards of the Seinfeld show. Jerry Seinfeld, of course, is also into Kabbalism.
Yes.
And there he's given a Kabbalistic sign, by the way.
I've got a few
you can tell that
here. The Das Seinfeld archives.
The Das Seinfeld archives.
Let me see if I can pick these out. Well, no, we got that one.
Yes.
And that's the same one you got Rasputin here doing in your book.
Here's Nixon giving a penal sign of Freemasonry. These are all
the right angle. And it's Ozzy giving the right
There's
angle.
Ozzy giving, he's on the square, as the Masons would say there.
Right.
And
now
so
this one, and then that one, I noticed when I was going through these, now you see Kramer is giving that one, and Jerry's giving the other one.
There you go.
And
there you go.
Elaine and George are doing the hermaphrodite.
Yes, they are. And that's interesting. All of them are giving occultic secret society signs on Seinfeld. Seinfeld was a show that if you dissected would find incredible occultism and symbology, wouldn't you? Yeah. Here's Phillips 66.
Well, see, now I found
a lot of these corporate logos are interesting.
What I've discovered in realizing that they were practicing a Hebrew mysticism is that hold that there, Chuck. The letter V in Hebrew is 6, right?
Oh yes, at the vowel. Yeah, that's correct.
Instead of So when you look at VW there, you actually see two
very
V's,
interesting.
Right? W. Which
and then,
I found the number 66 is the number of the fallen angels.
Wow.
And so W actually means the fallen angels in magic. And VW, he crossed the two V's, making 666 because he knew. And
incredible.
They realized that Hitler is practicing Hebrew magic. Okay, that one's for a little.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to these fallen angels.
It does indeed. The fallen angels that have taught these men these horrible things. Samael is a name for the devil. Lilith, by the way, is the consort of the devil. This is the mistress of the devil. There we have Baphomet, the horned god. Well, he's saying that's for the sign for W, but is it? I would think it's the unholy trinity. Here's simply the sign of the devil by Prince William. And this, oh my.
Self-made into an angel.
I understand down in South America, a certain town down there dedicated that statue of the dark angel to Prince Charles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was proud of it. Proud to be associated with the devil. There's the angel. A black, dark angel. That's Prince Charles. It's in the square of a town, isn't it, down in South America somewhere?
Yeah,
Prince Charles.
Yes,
it's astonishing.
Because it all goes back to magic.
It is magic. It's rituals, and here again, this is the sign of admiration or astonishment or surprise. And
surprised he called up that little demon.
Yeah. In this case, there's Aleister Crowley. You can see all the various
That's in his Masonic
symbols.
regalia, and he is. Go back to that, Chuck. Even though we only got a few minutes left. He's in his Masonic regalia there, and it's signed, of course, his name, the Baphomet.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about.
Oh, that's interesting. He signs as Baphomet.
Yeah.
And there is a symbol of Baphomet as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is the man he prided himself, he called himself the wickedest man on the planet.
Right. And his handwritten works are at the UT campus at the Harry Ransom Center. The Book of the Law, the most sinister book he's ever written.
I was right there.
It's right here.
Well, they paid millions of dollars to get all these wonderful works, haven't they?
Yeah.
Astonishing. Marilyn Manson, of course. Here's George
showing all the different
Washington. Yeah.
of Baphomet.
This is one of the statues of George Washington that was first erected in Washington, D.C., making him into a Roman god. But there was a little embarrassment over it because of his nakedness and because of the Roman god or Roman emperor image. And that's set somewhere in some back closet of a museum.
Well, he's in the same position as the Baphomet.
Yeah, it's the same, this very same position as the Baphomet. Here we have again the serpent, and you have the image. Notice, as above, so below.
Yes.
That's the meaning of that Jewish Star of David, two triangles together. And he's
there.
Yeah, so here again we get back to some of the more deep occult symbols of Satan.
That's all the pictures we're going to get.
All right. We got to a lot today. Yeah. We sure did.
But we got time to talk about this some more. We can let it roll, I guess. Because now we're finding that this all goes back to a Hebrew Kabbalism, and everybody is openly practicing this. Demi Moore just had a Kabbalistic wedding. True. Madonna, Britney, they're all practicing.
I saw Bill Clinton had his little red wristband. Oh, yeah, he's into the Kabbalah, too.
Yeah,
Newt Gingrich is into the Kabbalah. Yeah, they're all practicing black magic of Kabbalah.
Where do we go from here? What's the...
Well,
let's go ahead and stop it there.
Isn't it always true that there is the majority that's sort of just unknowing, and then there is a significant minority who is evil, that is versed in the deep things of Satan, and then you have a few good Christian people and people of goodwill that I hope will become Christian, myself as a Christian, because we need some fighters, we need some warriors. And I'm not talking, you can go in almost every church in Austin, Texas, you're not going to find true Christians. You just find pew sitters, people that just sit there. They're not willing to fight evil. Most people are frightened to death. I give you credit, Freeman.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm just stupid.
No, you're not. No, you're not. I can tell you're not. But you have courage, you have boldness. And I think that matters a lot. And you're doing the people of America a great service.
What else?
We deserve more than this horror that we're seeing, this magical ritual. And you know the media, and ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, the networks, and Time Magazine, Washington Post, all of the various news agencies, they're involved in this. They know what they're showing us. They know they're participating in this march of evil images and symbology and so forth. They are part of the evil force. But I want to assure people, though, these people are not going to win ultimately. They have great power. They can do great damage. But I don't believe ultimately they're going to win. I believe truth has its own reward, and it has its own great power. And I believe, I don't mean to preach to people, I'm not here to do that tonight necessarily, but I believe that the resurrection power of Christ Jesus demonstrated the power. The devils of hell couldn't keep him down. He triumphed over them.
Jesus told me I could walk on water. You know?
Yeah, well, he could. He can walk on water, and I think these people, in a way, are pitiful. They're much miserable. You know, as a Christian, I don't need formulas. I don't need numerology.
Right.
I don't need all these symbols and all this garbage.
They go through a lot of effort.
Yeah, well, they do. And a lot of them, believe me, are frightened. What if they make the wrong hand sign? What if the ritual backfires? You'll read in their own literature, they're saying if you don't do the ritual right, these evil spirits can come forth.
I've read that in Freemason works.
Yeah. So a lot of these people get trapped into this, and they literally are desperate. And some of them end up killing themselves. Jack Parsons, we mentioned him, the great rocket scientist. He died in an explosion, but many people say he killed himself.
Right.
He exploded, his own works, exploded in his home.
Deep within our souls, we know. And they know.
They know. They know whom they worship. They will have 1,000 disguises. It's like a witch that I debated up in Seattle on a TV station there. She said, "Oh, you horrible Christians, we witches do not worship the devil. The devil is a Christian invention." And I asked her, and sort of like the old Phil Donahue show, the host comes up and sticks a microphone in my face. What's your response to that, Mr. Morris? And I asked this witch, I said, "You don't worship the devil?" She said, "Absolutely not." I said, "But you as a witch do worship Pan, the horned god of the forest." "Well, yes," she said, "but that's not the devil."
Right.
Well, the horned god is the horned god. I don't worship a horned god, do you?
No,
Freeman? So here again, they attempt to disguise it. In one of the Masonic books I was reading by 33rd degree Mason John Robinson, A Pilgrim's Path, that was published by a Masonic publishing house, he says, "Why, we don't worship Lucifer. We don't even believe in Lucifer."
Yeah.
Lucifer's not the devil. Lucifer's a good angel.
Right.
He was the solar angel, the sun angel. And you Christians have it all mixed up. Lucifer is not the devil.
Right.
So they're setting up people so that when people do find out who they're really worshiping, they say, "But that's not the devil. Lucifer isn't the devil. He's a good angel."
I sent a friend of mine one of my videos, and I've got a 3-hour video now, and you saw it. And he went and joined the Masons the next month.
Well, maybe he wanted to get a bit of that magic. Maybe he wanted to partake of that supernaturalism. But I want to warn people, you don't
get something for nothing.
I can't tell you how many people have committed suicide after dabbling with these scare people. If you want names, by the way, read my book, Ravaged by the New Age. You'll have names of a number of Satanists and others who killed themselves and actually killed others too. There are people killing others in satanic rituals, even to this day in America.
As if, they join this secret society, they get all the perks of the system, they get to be president, head of the banks, and all of this. And they believe that it's only due to the fact that they've stepped up to this altar, kneeled down, and worshiped Jabulon. Mm-hmm. And they think there's no payment for this. That, if I just get up here and swear to cut my throat open and rip my tongue out, then I'm all good. I get a good job. There's no free lunch.
The devil requires things of you.
Yes.
I remember there was a witch who was really sort of like the highest level witch in the state of Florida. She wrote a book called The Witch That Switched.
Yeah.
She switched to Christianity. She said as a witch, she never was satisfied. The devil never had enough and kept requiring her more and more of her. And so she was a miserable person. And I believe these people will end up that way too. If all they want is a temporary gain.
Right. Yes. It's not all about the third dimensional reality.
That's right.
And these people are selling you the third dimensional, the American dream, but it's all Satan. representing this order.
That's right.
I've seen it in my father. I've seen it, countless times. And thank you, Tex.
Hey, thank you, Freeman. It has been great being here tonight.
It's been wonderful.
And it's great to expose evil.
It is.
And I appreciate your courage on this program very much.
What else could we do, right? We can't just sit back and let this happen.
No, we can't. And we've got to fight. We are fighting.
Yes.
And it's amazing. Many people say, why aren't you dead, Tex Mars? Well, I'm going to be right here till God calls me home. And it's not going to be because of these people. Okay.
That was
Hey, I think we did pretty good.
That was great, yeah.
Yeah, that went fast, man.
It does, doesn't it?
Man,
I was like, oh man, we're never going to we didn't even get through half the pictures.
wow.
We'll have to do it again.
Well, we will have to do it again. You just did a marvelous job. I can't